On my wife's 40th birthday, she kissed her young assistant in front of everyone. The crowd was stunned, but I calmly pulled out a divorce agreement. My name is Wang Chao. My wife, Zhu Juan, and I have been married for 20 years. We have a son, Zhu Xiaobao, and a daughter, Wang Tao Tao. My wife has a dominant personality, while I'm more easygoing. So, after we got married, I handed over the company entirely to her management. I settled into taking care of the kids at home and maintaining our family social network. I thought life would go on like this forever, until the day she decided to recognize her university student assistant as her godbrother. Suddenly, my life felt rather meaningless. The sunlight that day was beautiful, streaming through the floor-to-ceiling windows into the living room. I was combing my daughter, Wang Tao Tao's hair. She's 10 now, her hair dark and shiny, just like her mother's. "Daddy, be gentle, you're pulling my hair," Tao Tao pouted. I chuckled and apologized, my fingers lightening their touch. My son, Zhu Xiaobao, sat on the sofa, scrolling through his phone, not even looking up as he said, "Dad, Mom's not coming back for dinner tonight." My hands paused for a fraction of a second before resuming their task. "Does she have company business?" Xiaobao shrugged. "Don't know. She sent a WeChat message saying she's taking that new assistant out for a business dinner tonight." I murmured an not asking further. Zhu Juan had been incredibly busy lately. Ever since she hired that university student named Lin Yang as her assistant 6 months ago, her schedule had become increasingly packed. I hadn't paid much attention at first. After all, the Zhu family dealt in pharmaceutical raw materials. Zhu Juan was the only daughter, and company affairs had always been demanding. But gradually, I noticed her coming home later and later, sometimes not until the early hours of the morning, carrying a faint, unfamiliar scent of perfume. It wasn't her usual fragrance. Then, last month, at a family gathering, she announced she wanted to formally recognize Lin Yang as her godbrother. It was old Master Zhu's 70th birthday, and Zhu wanted specifically booked a private room at the most luxurious hotel in A City. I stood beside her, wearing the dark blue suit she'd picked out for me, smiling politely as I exchanged pleasantries with the various guests. "Mr. Wang, you and CEO Zhu are truly a model couple, still so devoted after all these years," someone complimented, raising their glass. I smiled and nodded, but my peripheral vision caught Zhu Juan's gaze constantly drifting toward the corner of the banquet hall. Following her line of sight, I saw Lin Yang. He wore a well-tailored black suit, looking young, tall, and sharp. When he smiled, the corners of his eyes crinkled slightly, radiating youthful energy. He was chatting with several senior executives from a Zhu family company, his manners impeccable, his conversation confident, nothing like a recent graduate. Suddenly, Zhu Juan tugged my sleeve and whispered, "Old Wang, I have an announcement to make later." Before I could process it, she had walked onto the small stage, picked up the microphone, and beamed. "Dear friends and family, today, besides celebrating my father's birthday, I have another happy occasion to announce." The room fell silent. All eyes were on her. "From today onwards, I will formally recognize Lin Yang as my godbrother." Applause and laughter instantly broke out below the stage. Someone teased, "CEO Zhu, are you grooming a successor?" Zhu Juan's eyes curved into crescents as she smiled. "Lin Yang is exceptionally capable, hard-working, and eager to learn. I admire him greatly." Standing below the stage, the smile on my face froze. Lin Yang walked up and, in front of everyone, respectfully called her "Big Sister." Zhu Juan reached out and patted his shoulder, her gaze unbelievably tender. And I stood to the side, like an outsider. After we got home that night, Zhu Juan uncharacteristically poured me a glass of red wine. "What's wrong? Unhappy?" she asked, sitting across from me, crossing her legs, the tip of her high heel tapping lightly on the floor. I took a sip of wine. "No," I said lightly. "I just didn't expect you to suddenly acquire a godbrother." She gave a small laugh. "Lin Yang has great potential. I want to nurture him properly." "Nurture him for what?" I looked up, meeting her eyes directly. "To take over the Zhu family business?" Zhu Juan's smile faded slightly. "Old Wang, what are you implying?" I put down my wine glass, my tone calm. "Nothing. I just feel. You seem a bit overly invested in him lately." She was silent for a few seconds, then stood up, looking down at me. "Wang Chao, you'd best stay out of company matters." With that, she turned and walked upstairs, the sound of her high heels clicking sharply against the floor. I sat there, staring at the swirling red liquid in my glass, suddenly feeling that our 20 years of marriage were slowly beginning to crumble. The next morning, after dropping the kids off at school, I drove straight to the Zhu group. The receptionist was taken aback when she saw me. "Mr. Wang, what brings you here? I gave a small smile. I'm here to see my wife. She hesitated for a moment. President Zhu is in a meeting right now. Would you like to wait in her office? I nodded and walked straight to the elevator. Zhu Juan's office was on the top floor, lavishly decorated. I pushed the door open and went inside. I noticed a photo on her desk, a picture of her and Lin Yang. They were at some resort, standing close together, beaming. Next to the photo was a bottle of perfume with "for her" printed on the bottle. I picked up the perfume bottle and sprayed a little. It was that unfamiliar scent. Suddenly, the door was pushed open and Lin Yang walked in. He visibly froze when he saw me, but quickly put on a polite smile. Mr. Wang, he said, what brings you here? I put the perfume bottle down and said calmly, I'm here to see my wife. He nodded. President Zhu is in the conference room. Shall I let her know you're here? I stared into his eyes, young, confident, and with even a subtle hint of provocation. No need. I smiled slightly. I just came to have a look. He gave a slight nod and turned to leave, his posture impeccably straight. I stood by the window, gazing down at the bustling traffic below, and suddenly realized this family perhaps was already damaged beyond recognition. 6 months. For a full 6 months, I had watched that young man, Lin Yang, steadily encroach upon my family. At first, he was just Zhu Juan's assistant. Then he became her sworn little brother. Later still, he began showing up frequently, at our dinner table at the kids' parent-teacher conferences, even accompanying Zhu Juan on her private outings. And I had silently watched it all happen, until today, Zhu Juan's birthday. The first direct confrontation happened at Xiao Bao's parent-teacher conference. Zhu Juan and I had planned to go together that day, but just as we were about to leave, she took a call, her brow furrowing slightly. Wang, she said, there's a last-minute meeting at the office. I have to go. I nodded. All right, I'll go by myself then. But when I walked into the classroom, I saw Lin Yang already sitting next to Xiao Bao, head down, discussing something with him. Xiao Bao looked up, saw me, and his expression turned awkward. Dad, what are you doing here? I stood frozen, a chill running down my spine. Lin Yang stood up, offering a polite smile. Mr. Wang, Ms. Zhu had something urgent come up and asked me to come in her place. I stared at him, speaking slowly. A parent-teacher conference. Since when are outsiders allowed? His smile froze for an instant, but quickly returned. Ms. Zhu mentioned Xiao Bao's math scores have slipped recently, so she asked me to come and discuss it with the teacher. Xiao Bao kept his head down, not daring to look at me. I walked over and patted my son's shoulder, my voice soft, but loud enough for Lin Yang to hear. Next time something like this comes up, come directly to me. Don't involve outsiders. Lin Yang didn't reply, just narrowed his eyes slightly. The second time was at the dinner table at home. It was Tao Tao's birthday. Zhu Juan had managed to get home on time for once, even bringing a cake. But halfway through the meal, the doorbell rang. Lin Yang stood there, holding a box of exquisite chocolates, a bright smile on his face. Sister, I brought a gift for Tao Tao. Zhu Juan immediately got up, warmly inviting him in. Perfect timing, come eat with us. My grip tightened on my chopsticks, but I said nothing. Lin Yang naturally sat down next to Zhu Juan, even casually placing a piece of fish on her plate. Sister, you've been so tired lately. Eat more. Zhu Juan smiled and nodded, her eyes soft. Tao Tao looked at him curiously. Uncle Lin, how did you know I like chocolate? Lin Yang patted her head, his tone doting. Your mother told me. I put down my chopsticks, my voice calm. Tao Tao, are you finished eating? Dad will take you to cut the cake. Tao Tao nodded, hopped off her chair, and ran over to grab my hand. Lin Yang's gaze fell on me, the corner of his mouth lifting in a ghost of a smile. The third time was at the Zhu family's annual gala. Zhu Juan, dressed in a couture gown, stood with her arm linked through Lin Yang's, introducing him to all the guests. This is the future pillar of our Zhu family, my godbrother, Lin Yang. Thunderous applause erupted from below the stage, while I stood in a corner, feeling like a complete outsider. After a few rounds of drinks, Lin Yang approached me, glass in hand, his tone tinged with provocation. Mr. Wang, a toast to you. I looked at him without moving. He chuckled, lowering his voice. Don't worry, I'll take good care of sister. I stared into his eyes, then suddenly smiled too. Young man, don't be too confident. He raised an eyebrow. Oh, does Mr. Wang have some advice? I leisurely took a sip of wine, speaking lightly. Don't you know deep down who the Zhu family has relied on to prosper all these years? His smile froze again for a moment. I patted his shoulder, my tone easygoing. Work hard. Don't let your sister down. With that, I turned and walked away, leaving him standing there, his expression uncertain. That night, Zhu Juan came home drunk, reeking of alcohol. I sat on the sofa, watching her stagger in, frowning. Why did you drink so much? She waved a dismissive hand, her tone impatient. Just business socializing. It's unavoidable. I got up to steady her. Go take a shower, rest early. She suddenly pushed me away, her eyes somewhat unfocused. Wang, do you have a problem with Lin Yang? I paused for a moment, then said flatly, no. She stared at me, then suddenly laughed. You're lying? She swayed towards me, poking my chest with her finger. Wang Chao, don't you forget, I'm the one running the Zhu family now. I'll acknowledge whoever I want as my brother. I grabbed her wrist, my voice calm. Zhu Juan, don't you forget who the Zhu family has relied on all these years. She froze, then sneered. Relied on you? Huh. Do you think the Zhu family can't survive without you? I released her hand and turned towards the stairs. You can try. The next morning, Zhu Juan was up unusually early and even made breakfast herself. I sat at the dining table, watching her busy back, silent. She came over with a cup of coffee, her tone much softer. Lao Wang, I drank too much last night and said some harsh things. Don't take it to heart. I took the coffee and gave a non-committal She sat down, hesitated, then added about Lin Yang. Don't overthink it. I just think he has potential, someone worth nurturing. I looked up at her. Nurture him to what extent? She avoided my gaze. Just so he can help manage the company in the future. I put down my coffee cup, my voice quiet. Zhu Juan, do you think that just because I haven't been involved with the company these years, I'm completely clueless? She snapped her head up. What do you mean? I gave a slight smile, didn't answer, stood up, and grabbed my coat. Taking the kid to school. In the car, Xiao Bao suddenly asked me, Dad, did you and Mom have a fight? My hands paused on the steering wheel. Why do you ask? He looked down. Uncle Lin said, you two aren't getting along very well. I slammed on the brakes and turned to look at him. When did he tell you that? Xiao Bao was startled by me, stammering just, last time he picked me up from school. I took a deep breath, suppressed my anger, and asked as calmly as possible, what else did he say? Xiao Bao hesitated, then said quietly, he said, Mom works really hard, and he'll take good care of us in the future. I closed my eyes, a heavy weight settling in my chest. After a long moment, I started the car again, my tone calm. Xiao Bao, remember, Dad will always be your dad. He nodded, seeming to only half understand. Zhu Juan's 40th birthday party was held at the most exclusive high-end club in A City. She wore a wine-red velvet long dress, cinched tightly at the waist, and around her collarbone hung the diamond necklace I gave her last year. Her hair was lightly curled, her lipstick a startling blood red. She didn't look 40 at all, more like a young woman in her early 30s. I stood in a corner, holding a glass of whiskey, the ice cubes clinking softly in the amber liquid. The banquet hall wasn't large, filled only with Zhu Juan's close friends, a few long-term suppliers, several company executives, and Lin Yang. Tonight, he wore an impeccably tailored black suit with a dark red tie that complemented Zhu Juan's dress perfectly. He stood beside Zhu Juan, playing the host, greeting guests, pouring drinks, serving food, offering smiles, so practiced it was as if he belonged there. I watched coldly, saying nothing. When the cake was wheeled out, the lights dimmed. It was a 3-tier cream cake, topped with golden candles shaped like the number 40. Zhu Juan stood in the candlelight, smiling like a young girl, hands clasped together, eyes closed, making a wish. Lin Yang stood beside her, looking down at her, his gaze incredibly tender. What did you wish for? Someone teased. Zhu Juan opened her eyes, her smile coquettish. It's a secret. Then, she rose slightly on her toes, and under everyone's gaze, kissed Lin Yang. Not on the cheek, but on the lips. Instantly, the entire hall fell silent. Everyone's expression froze. The air felt thin, sucked dry. Even breathing seemed to stop. After a few seconds, someone coughed awkwardly. Someone else looked down, pretending to drink, while others stole glances at me, their eyes filled with pity and shock. Zhu Juan seemed to realize what she'd done, but quickly composed herself, laughing it off lightly. Lin Yang is my brother. It was just a little kiss. Why is everyone so tense? With that, she turned to me, a provocative curve to her lips. Old Wang, you're not jealous, are you? The room fell silent again. Everyone held their breath, waiting for my reaction. I smiled, set down my glass, pulled a document from my inner suit pocket, and walked slowly towards her. Sign this. I handed her the papers, my voice terrifyingly calm. Then you can play however you want. Zhu Juan glanced down, and her face changed instantly. Divorce papers. Her head snapped up, pupils constricting. Wang Chao, what is the meaning of this? I didn't answer, just raised my hand and lightly slapped the documents against her face. The papers scattered with a soft thwack, fluttering to the floor. Happy birthday. I said, then turned and left. Behind me came Zhu Juan's uncontrolled shriek. Wang Chao, stop right there. I didn't look back. The corridor lights were bright, making my eyes ache. The rapid click of high heels sounded behind me. Zhu Juan caught up, grabbing my arm. Are you crazy? In front of all those people. I shook off her hand, looking at her coldly. Zhu Juan, how many chances have I given you these past 6 months? She froze. Parent-teacher conferences, you sent him instead. Our daughter's birthday, you let him sit in my place. Company decisions, you let him interfere. And now, you kiss him in front of everyone. I stared into her eyes, speaking word by word. Did you really think I was blind? Or did you think I, Wang Chao, would put up with you forever? Her lips trembled, a flicker of panic finally showing. I just had too much to drink. Too much to drink. I scoffed. Are you sober now? She opened her mouth, but couldn't speak. I turned to leave again, but she lunged, grabbing my sleeve desperately. Wang Chao, you can't do this. We have our child, the company, and the Zhu family's mess. I cut her off, my tone icy. Don't worry. I get the child. The company. You can give it to whoever you want. Her face went deathly pale as she finally realized I was serious. You've had this planned all along, haven't you? Her voice shook. I smiled faintly, but didn't answer, just gently pried her fingers off me and walked towards the elevator without looking back. As the elevator door slid shut, I heard Zhu Juan's broken sobs. But inside, I felt only calm. For the past 6 months, I had watched her cross my boundaries step by step, watched Lin Yang's arrogant provocations, watched this family fall apart piece by piece. I had endured too long, waited too long. I was waiting for today. The elevator descended. My phone vibrated. I took it out. A message from my lawyer. Mr. Wang, the procedures for the share transfer and asset freeze are complete. All accounts under Zhu Juan's name will be frozen at midnight tonight. I turned off the screen, a cold smirk touching my lips. Zhu Juan had probably forgotten whose connections and capital her family had relied on to prosper all these years. And she had forgotten even more clearly that I, Wang Chao, was never a pushover. At night, I sat alone in the study, pulling out an address book I hadn't touched in ages. Flipping through the pages, the familiar names and numbers represented the network of connections I'd maintained for the Zhu family over the years. I picked up my phone and dialed a number. Old Chun, it's me, Wang Chao. A hearty laugh came from the other end. Well, Mr. Wang, what a surprise. What made you think of calling me? I chuckled. There's something I need your help with. Go ahead. I leaned back in my chair, my gaze drifting to the night outside the window, and spoke slowly. That recent batch of raw materials for the Zhu family. Is it stuck at customs? Old Chin paused for a moment. How did you know? I gave a slight laugh. Just a guess. He was silent for a few seconds, then lowered his voice. Old Wang, we've known each other for years, so I won't hide it from you. Yes, it's stuck. And the problem isn't small. I hummed in acknowledgement. Can it be resolved? He hesitated. It's tricky, unless. Unless what? Unless you handle it personally. A smirk touched my lips. All right, I'll treat you to dinner tomorrow. We can talk specifics then. After hanging up, I walked to the window, looking at my reflection in the glass. At 40, I wasn't young anymore, but definitely not old. The next morning, the doorbell rang. I opened the door to find Zhu Juan's parents standing outside, their faces livid. Her father's hair was whiter than the last time I'd seen him, and her mother still had tear tracks around her eyes. Wang Chao, her father began, his voice hoarse. We need to talk. I stepped aside to let them in, saying nothing. In the living room, Zhu Juan sat on the sofa, head bowed, twisting her fingers together until her knuckles turned white. She probably hadn't slept last night. The dark circles under her eyes were too deep even for foundation to hide. As soon as her father entered, he brutally slapped her across the face. Smack! The sharp sound exploded in the living room. Are you crazy? Her father roared, his voice trembling. You're 40 years old, in front of all those people. Have you no shame? Zhu Juan covered her face, large tears rolling down, but didn't dare to argue back. Her mother's eyes reddened too as she pointed at her, scolding, You've utterly disgraced the Zhu family. Do you know what people are saying outside? That you're keeping a pretty boy, that the Wang family is going to divorce you. Zhu Juan finally broke down, sobbing, I didn't. I really just drank too much. There's nothing between him and me. Her father trembled with rage. Nothing. Then why did you kiss him? Do you take Wang Chao for a fool? I sat on the armchair, watching the scene unfold with cold eyes, feeling not a ripple of emotion within me. Half an hour later, my parents also arrived. My mother frowned as soon as she walked in. What's going on? Why all this commotion? Zhu Juan's parents immediately went over, explaining things in hushed, subservient tones. My father, however, came to my side and patted my shoulder. "Son, calm down. Don't be rash." I didn't say anything. Soon, the four elders reached a consensus. This matter had to be suppressed. Divorce was absolutely out of the question. "Ah, Wang Chao," my mother took my hand, her tone softening. "Juanzi did wrong this time, but you've been married for 20 years. Your child has grown. Are you really going to take it as far as divorce?" Zhu Juan's mother quickly chimed in. "Yes, Juanzi knows she was wrong. She'll definitely change." Her father directly ordered Zhu Juan. "Aren't you going to apologize to Wang Chao?" Trembling, Zhu Juan stood up, walked over to me, and suddenly dropped to her knees with a thud. "Old Wang, I was wrong," she cried, her makeup completely ruined, clutching at my trouser leg. "I was just foolish for a moment, I swear. There's nothing between me and Lin Yang. I've already fired him. I'll never have anything to do with him again." The four elders all stared at me, their eyes screaming, "Let it go now." My father sighed, speaking earnestly. "Wang Chao, you're 40 years old. Stop making trouble. Just let life go on like this." I looked down at Zhu Juan kneeling on the floor. Her mascara had run, creating 2 black tear tracks. The eyes and brow that once captivated me now only showed desperation and calculation. I suddenly found it ridiculous. 20 years of marriage, the pressure from the four elders, the ties of our child, the judgment of society. Everyone was telling me to just let it go. As if my nodding was all it took for this chapter to close. As if my feelings didn't matter at all. But they had no idea. 20 years ago, they had smothered my dreams and my youth in the exact same way. 20 years ago, I was 21, a junior in college, and a moderately well-known travel blogger. Back then, my social media handle was Winds of Afar. I didn't have many followers, but the ones I had were passionate. I wore performance jackets, carried my camera, and stood before the snow-capped mountains of Nepal, under the aurora borealis in Iceland, and in the Sahara Desert, my smile so bright it seemed like life could never tie me down. My dream was simple: travel the entire world, see every sight. My parents never stopped me. They even supported me quietly. The Wang family wasn't short on money. They just wanted me to live freely. Until Zhu Juan's 20th birthday. Zhu Juan was my childhood friend. The Zhu and Wang families had known each other for generations. She'd always had a strong personality, while I was easygoing by nature. So even when she was occasionally overbearing, I'd just smile and never made a fuss. That day, at her birthday party, I planned to just make an appearance and leave. I'd already booked a flight to New Zealand to film a vlog about glacier hiking. But Zhu Juan stopped me. "Wang Chao, it's my birthday. Are you really going to disrespect me like this?" She held her wine glass, her smile sweet, but her eyes held a stubbornness I couldn't decipher. My parents were there too. My father clapped me on the shoulder. "It's rare we all get together. Have a couple of drinks with Juanzi." I didn't think much of it and took the glass. 1 drink, 2, 3. The next thing I knew, I was waking up, and it was already noon the next day. I was lying in Zhu Juan's bed, my head splitting, and she was sitting beside me, her eyes red. "Wang Chao," she said, "you have to take responsibility." My parents stood silently in the doorway, watching me. In that instant, I understood. I had been set up, but no one would believe me. The reputation, the face of the Zhu and Wang families was more important than my freedom. At 24, Zhu Juan and I got married. The wedding was grand. Everyone who was anyone in A City attended. Zhu Juan, in her white wedding dress, held my arm, smiling happily, triumphantly. Standing at the altar, looking out at the guests, I suddenly remembered the wish I'd made at 21, standing before a fjord in Norway. I want to travel the whole world. But now, my passport was locked away in a drawer, my camera gathered dust, my social media account went silent. My followers left comments asking if I'd had some kind of accident. I never replied, because my accident was this marriage. In the 20 years that followed, I became the perfect husband, father, and son-in-law. I catered to Zhu Juan's temper, managed the social and business networks of the Wang and Zhu families, accompanied her to countless business functions, and even voluntarily stepped back from the forefront when she took over the company, staying home to raise the children, cook, and care for both sets of parents. Everyone praised me. Wang Chao is such a good man. But no one knew that late at night alone, I would pull out my old photo albums and look at the pictures I'd taken years ago of snow mountains, oceans, deserts, places I could no longer reach my distant horizons. Zhu Juan never understood my regrets. Once, I tentatively brought it up. When the kids are a bit older, I'd like to travel again. She scoffed. "How old are you?" Still dreaming. Silently, I put the albums away and never mentioned it again. Until the day she decided, on her own, to adopt Lin Yang as her godbrother, until she treated our 20 years of marriage like a joke. In that moment, I suddenly realized maybe it was time. I stopped caring about saving face for anyone. Zhu Juan's parents were still in the living room, earnestly trying to persuade me, but I directly dialed the chief financial officer. Mr. Wang. The voice on the other end sounded surprised. After all, I hadn't interfered in company matters for years. Liquidate, my voice was calm. Liquidate all assets under my name, including the cross-held shares with the Wang and Zhu families. Everything. The CFO sucked in a sharp breath. That will take time. How long? 3 months, minimum. Then 3 months it is. I hung up and turned to face the shocked expressions filling the room. Zhu Juan's father shot to his feet. Wang Chao, do you have any idea what you're doing? I slowly, deliberately adjusted my cuffs. Perfectly clear. Divorce. Zhu Juan's mother shrieked and nearly fainted. My own parents were panicked, grabbing my hand, pleading, "Son, don't be rash. Can't we talk this through?" I gently pulled my hand away and dialed my lawyer. Lawyer Zhang, redraft the divorce agreement. I want 70% of the assets. The sound of typing came from the other end. Understood. And child custody. I glanced at Zhu Juan, standing frozen beside me, her face pale, lips trembling. The children will stay with their grandparents for now. I paused. We'll let the court decide. The next day, word spread through the pharmaceutical grapevine. Lin Yang had been blacklisted across the entire industry. No one dared say why explicitly, but an encrypted list had appeared in the inbox of every pharmaceutical HR department. Lin Yang, only a few years out of university, suddenly found his resume submissions vanished like stones dropped into the ocean. I stood by the floor-to-ceiling window, watching Lin Yang downstairs, desperately flagging down Zhu Juan's car, crying pitifully. I found it somewhat amusing. The day the nanny took the children away, little Xiao Bao looked at me with red-rimmed eyes. "Daddy, don't you want us anymore?" 15-year-old Tao Tao clung tightly to my leg, sobbing too hard to speak. I knelt, meeting their eyes. "Daddy will always love you. But right now, Daddy needs to find himself again." They might not understand, but that was okay. One day they would realize that a father who had lost himself couldn't be a true role model for them. In the airport departure hall, I took a picture of my plane ticket. Destination, Reykjavik. 20 years ago, standing before an Icelandic volcano, I had vowed to see all the world's auroras. It was late now, but not too late. My social media account, dormant for 2 decades, suddenly updated with a single sentence. The wandering wind is finally free. The comments section instantly exploded. Old followers left messages in disbelief. "Is that really you? My God, you're alive. Where have you been for the last 20 years? I didn't reply, just turned off my phone. At the boarding gate, I took one last look back at the city I had lived in for 40 years. Zhu Juan would probably never understand. She had destroyed my marriage, but in doing so, she had accidentally given me a new life. 6 months later, I returned to City A. The image of the Arctic aurora still shimmered in my mind. The biting wind and the dazzling green lights felt like they had blown away 20 years of suffocating stagnation in one breath. Standing in the airport, I wore a lightweight windbreaker, my skin tanned a healthy brown by the polar sun. I felt reshaped, polished anew, even my gaze sharper. I had come back for Xiao Bao and Tao Tao's birthday. Zhu Juan was waiting for me outside the cake shop. I almost didn't recognize her. The proud, domineering woman from half a year ago now had noticeable streaks of white in her hair, deep wrinkles etched around her eyes, and even her lipstick wasn't applied evenly. She wore an outdated suit, clutching 2 gift bags, standing there awkwardly. And then there was me, healthily tanned, eyes bright, my steps lighter than before. She looked up and saw me, her lips trembling. "Wang Chao." I nodded, saying nothing. Over the past 6 months, she had sent countless messages, apologies, explanations, hysterical outbursts, even humble pleas. I hadn't replied to a single one. The divorce had been handled efficiently by lawyers, assets divided cleanly, custody shared with 1 child each, though she had insisted we celebrate their birthdays together. "You look good," she said, her voice hoarse. I smiled slightly. The Arctic was nice. Her fingers tightened around the gift bags. "I always wanted to explain to you. That day, I really just drank too much, Lin Yang, and I actually—" "It doesn't matter anymore," I interrupted calmly. "It's all in the past." She froze, her eyes suddenly turning red. Inside the cake shop, the children shrieked and rushed towards me. "Daddy!" Tao Tao leaped into my arms, while Xiao Bao stood aside, looking a bit awkward but with shining eyes. Like a magician, I pulled gifts from my backpack, a piece of Icelandic volcanic rock for Xiao Bao, and an Arctic fox plush toy for Tao Tao. Are there really foxes in the Arctic? Tao Tao's eyes widened. Yes, white ones like snow. I ruffled her hair. Zhu Juan stood nearby, watching us, her fingers unconsciously fiddling with her gift bags. She had bought the latest game console and a designer backpack. Expensive, but lacking warmth. As the candles were being blown out, Zhu Juan suddenly burst into tears. The children were startled, looking at her bewildered. Mommy, Xiao Bao hesitantly touched her hand. She wiped her tears messily. It's nothing. Mommy's just happy. I handed her a tissue. Her fingers trembled as she took it. In that moment, I suddenly realized she finally understood what loss truly meant. Not the loss of marriage, not the loss of assets, but the loss of the person who had always tolerated her, always cleaned up her messes. As I was leaving, she suddenly grabbed my sleeve. Wang Chao. Her voice trembled. If back then I hadn't. I gently pulled my hand away, looking at her calmly. Zhu Juan, there are no what-ifs in this world. She stood frozen. I bent down and kissed the children's foreheads. Next month, Daddy's taking you to see the fjords in Norway, okay? They cheered. Walking out of the cake shop, the wind from the Arctic seemed to still whisper in my ear. I knew my journey had only just begun. Zhu Juan's story. I've always loved Wang Chao, since we were very young. Back then, he would always sit alone under the sycamore tree in the courtyard, reading. Sunlight filtered through the leaves, dappling him like a painting. And I would hide behind a pillar, watching him secretly, my heart pounding painfully. He was the Wang family's only son, intelligent, gentle, with the whole world reflected in his eyes. And I was just the Zhu family's ill-tempered only daughter. I wasn't good enough for him. So when he turned 21, packing his bags to roam the world, I panicked. His camera lens captured glaciers, deserts, auroras, but his eyes held no place for me. That birthday party, I orchestrated it. Something was put in the drink my parents tacitly approved. When Wang Chao woke up, the confusion in his eyes stabbed me like a knife. But I didn't regret it. At least, he became mine. For the 20 years of our marriage, I fought desperately to prove I deserved him. I took over the company, became ruthless, and made the Zhu family business flourish. Everyone praised my competence, but only I knew the truth. I was just scared. Scared that one day he would suddenly remember his dreams. Scared that his gaze towards me would never hold that kind of light. So I became increasingly controlling, increasingly harsh. When he mentioned wanting to travel, I scoffed. Aren't you a bit old to still be dreaming? What I really wanted to say was, please don't leave me. Lin Yang's appearance was an accident. The adoration in that young man's eyes made me faintly recall myself at 20. When he called me sister, I suddenly thought, if only Wang Chao could have looked at me like that back then, how wonderful it would have been. So I indulged his closeness, even deliberately acted intimate with him in front of Wang Chao. I wanted to see Wang Chao get jealous. I wanted proof that he still cared. But when I actually kissed Lin Yang at the birthday party and turned to meet Wang Chao's eyes, I knew, in that instant, I had lost him completely. Every day after the divorce, I secretly followed him. His social media account suddenly became active again. Under the aurora, he smiled so happily, that light from his 20s back in his eyes. I clutched my phone and cried until 3 in the morning. Later, he went to Iceland, to Norway, to the Sahara. He posted photos from every place he visited. And I, like some pathetic voyeur, saved every single picture into an encrypted album. Sometimes, I would dream of Wang Chao at 21, standing before the snow-capped mountains of Nepal, holding out his hand to me. Juanzi, want to come along? I always woke up to a wet pillow. The children occasionally talked about him. Daddy saved a baby cheetah in Africa. Daddy learned how to fly a helicopter. Their eyes sparkled when they spoke, just like their father's. All I could do was smile, pat their heads, and turn away to swallow the overwhelming bitterness. When I was 65, I saw Wang Chao in the news. He had received the Global Traveler Award. In the photo, his hair was white, but he looked vigorous, standing before an Antarctic glacier, flashing a victory sign. That night, I dug out our wedding videotape. A young Wang Chao, wearing a suit, stood on the stage, smiling at me. That was the last time he had looked at me with that expression. Before I died, I called the children to my bedside. After I'm gone, I struggled to breathe, put the wedding photo of your father and me on my urn. My daughter nodded, sobbing, while my son hesitated, wanting to say something. I knew what he wanted to say. Wang Chao would never know any of this. He would never know that the woman who destroyed his dreams had spent her entire life repenting. As I closed my eyes for the last time, I seemed to see the boy under the sycamore tree again. This time, I finally found the courage to walk towards him. Wang Chao, want to go see the aurora together?